All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to tackle, well, I guess you could say one of rock's most iconic anthems, Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mm.
We're going to be using the song's lyrics and some insightful analysis that I was able to find to try and unravel the mysteries behind this 6-minute masterpiece. And you know the song, you've sung along to it countless times, I'm sure. But have you ever stopped and thought about what it all means?
Yeah.
Why it still resonates with us so powerfully almost 50 years later? Well, let's dive in and see if we can't figure some of that out.
Yeah, what's really fascinating about Bohemian Rhapsody is just how much it speaks to, just universal human experiences,
Yeah.
even though the story itself is pretty wild and out there.
Yeah, no kidding. So, okay, let's unpack this thing. Right from the start, the lyrics kind of hit us with a curveball. Mama just killed a man.
Right out the gate.
You don't exactly expect a confession of murder in a chart-topping hit. So is this literal, metaphorical? What do you think?
Well, it's the question that's probably crossed everyone's mind. Like, on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, like this is an admission of guilt.
Mm.
But then if you dig a little deeper into the lyrics, you start to see that it might not be so simple. There's no real, clear crime scene. There's no details about the victim or the motive.
Mm-mm.
Instead, what you get is this, whirlwind of emotions. You get guilt, you get fear, defiance, even a sense of nihilism, which is the belief that life is meaningless.
Okay.
So maybe killed a man is more symbolic.
Hmm.
Perhaps it represents a turning point in the narrator's life,
Hmm.
kind of like a moment where they've crossed a line and their world is totally shattered.
Interesting. And then right before that confession, we get those incredibly relatable opening lines. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
Come on, who hasn't felt that kind of existential confusion at some point in their lives?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the song throws us headfirst into an existential crisis. The
Yeah.
narrator feels trapped like they're caught in a landslide, powerless to escape the consequences of their actions. I think it resonates with us because we all have moments where reality just feels overwhelming, like we're losing control.
It's interesting, though, because just a few lines before that, the narrator seems so carefree, singing about easy come, easy go, little high, little low. It's almost like nothing really matters to them at that point.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting. That phrase, easy come, easy go, actually comes back later in the song, but in a completely different context. It pops up during the judgment section, and it takes on a much darker meaning. It's almost like the narrator is being condemned for their carefree attitude, for thinking that actions don't have consequences.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. It's like the song is kind of playing with the idea of cause and effect, showing how a carefree approach can lead to some pretty serious repercussion.
Precisely. And then we have these mysterious figures that are thrown into the mix. Scaramouche, the Fandango, Galileo. It's like a surreal dream sequence filled with symbolism.
Yeah, I gotta admit, those references always felt a little random to me. But I guess that's part of what makes the song so captivating. Even if you don't fully understand them, they still add to the feeling of drama and mystery.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Scaramouche is typically a boastful clown. Fandango is this vibrant dance. And Galileo, of course, represents the struggle between science and religious dogma. So maybe they symbolize different facets of the narrator's personality, or the conflicting forces that play in their internal struggle. But what's really interesting is that they add to the emotional experience even if you don't consciously grasp their meaning.
Yeah, it's like they create this subconscious tapestry of imagery that adds all this depth and complexity to the song, and then bam, we hit the operatic section. It's like the song suddenly shifts gears. It becomes this over-the-top, almost theatrical portrayal of the narrator's inner turmoil.
The operatic section is truly brilliant. The multiple voices, the condemnations, the desperate pleas for mercy. It's like witnessing a battle raging within the narrator's soul. The intensity of the music perfectly mirrors the intensity of their emotions.
It's powerful stuff. And you can't help but wonder, is any of this inspired by Freddie Mercury's own life experiences? I mean, his life was known for its dramatic highs and lows.
Yeah, it's tempting to look for a direct correlation between the lyrics and Freddie's life. But I think we should be cautious about, interpreting art too literally. Like, while art often draws inspiration from personal experiences, it also speaks to universal truths that resonate with everyone.
That's a good point. But you can't deny the raw emotion that Freddie poured into this song. And that's part of what makes it so powerful, right? That ending line, nothing really matters, it's pretty bleak. Does the song offer any hope or resolution, or are we just kind of left with these unsettling questions?
That's a question that's been debated for decades. And I think it's part of what makes Bohemian Rhapsody so enduring.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer any easy answers. It throws these huge existential questions at you and then leaves you to grapple with them.
And does that make the song more relatable or less? Because on the one hand, it's comforting to know that someone else has felt this lost and confused. But on the other hand, that nihilistic ending is, well, a bit heavy.
It's both, isn't it? It's relatable because it acknowledges the darkness and the uncertainty that we all feel at times. But it's also unsettling because it doesn't offer a simple solution or a happy ending.
It's like the song is saying, hey, life is messy and complicated, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But that's okay. And we're right there with the narrator feeling those same emotions.
Exactly. The fact that we're still talking about this song, analyzing its meaning, debating its message almost 50 years after its release, proves just how powerfully it taps into those fundamental human experiences. Speaking of which, we should talk about the song's structure for a moment. It's not your typical verse-chorus, verse-pop song, is it?
Oh, not even close. Bohemian Rhapsody is more like a mini rock opera packed into 6 minutes. It has these distinct sections that flow into each other almost seamlessly, starting with a ballad, then exploding into a hard rock interlude, then that incredible operatic section, and finally circling back to a more redemptive ending.
Exactly. Each section has its own unique mood and energy. And if you look closely, the lyrics in each section seem to reflect different stages of the narrator's emotional journey. We begin with introspection and confession, then move into anger and defiance, then into that surreal, almost hallucinatory space with the opera, and finally a sense of resignation, maybe even acceptance at the end.
It's like the structure of the song itself mirrors the narrator's roller coaster ride of emotions. It's not a linear story. It's this fragmented, kaleidoscopic experience that feels very true to life. Life isn't always neat and tidy, right?
Right. We jump around in our thoughts and emotions just like the song jumps around in style and tempo. And speaking of jumping around, we can't ignore the elephant in the room any longer. Freddie Mercury's sexuality and how it might or might not be reflected in the lyrics.
Okay, yeah, this is a big one. There have been so many interpretations of Bohemian Rhapsody through the lens of Freddie's personal life, particularly his struggles with coming to terms with his sexuality in a time when it wasn't widely accepted.
Absolutely. It's understandable why people would connect the song's themes of isolation, judgment, and searching for identity with Freddie's own experiences. He was known for being very private about his personal life, but his music often hinted at a deeper struggle beneath the surface.
Like in the lyrics, spare him his life from this monstrosity. Some people interpret that as a plea for tolerance and understanding from a society that viewed homosexuality as something monstrous.
That's definitely one possible interpretation. And the lines, "So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye," could be seen as a direct response to the prejudice and discrimination he faced.
But then there are those who argue that reading too much personal biography into the lyrics takes away from the song's universal appeal. They say it's about the broader human experience of alienation, rebellion, and the search for meaning regardless of sexual orientation.
And they have a valid point, too. Art can be a powerful way to express personal truths, but it can also transcend individual experience and speak to something shared by all of humanity.
So where does that leave us? Do we interpret Bohemian Rhapsody as a coded message about Freddie Mercury's sexuality or as a broader exploration of the human condition?
I think the beauty of art is that it can be both. We can appreciate the song on multiple levels, recognizing its personal resonance for Freddie, while also connecting with its universal themes. Think of it like those optical illusions where you can see two different images depending on how you look at it. Both perspectives are valid and can even enhance each other.
Exactly. And ultimately, I think it comes down to what the song means to you as a listener. Your own life experiences, beliefs, and perspectives will shape how you interpret the lyrics.
That's the magic of music, isn't it? It can mean something different to each person who hears it. But one thing's for sure, Bohemian Rhapsody continues to spark debate, inspire emotion, and captivate audiences almost 50 years later.
And that's because it's so much more than just a catchy tune. It's a work of art that invites us to think, feel, and question. It's a song that stays with you long after it's over. Now, we talked about the meaning behind Bohemian Rhapsody, its unusual structure, and its potential connection to Freddie Mercury's personal life. But there's one final piece of the puzzle we need to explore: its legacy and lasting impact on music and culture.
Yeah, we've really dug deep into the lyrics and the meaning of Bohemian Rhapsody. But let's step back for a moment and look at its impact on music and culture as a whole.
Yeah, this song wasn't just a hit, it was a full-blown phenomenon.
Right.
It topped the charts for 9 weeks in the UK, came back for another 5 weeks in '91 after Freddie's death, and has sold millions of copies worldwide.
Yeah, the numbers are just mind-boggling, but they only tell part of the story. Bohemian Rhapsody completely changed the landscape of popular music, its length, its structure, its operatic elements. It was like nothing anyone had ever heard on the radio before.
Yeah, and it really opened the door for other artists to experiment and push boundaries. Suddenly, 6-minute epics with multiple movements didn't seem so crazy.
Exactly. It challenged the very definition of what a pop song could be. And then there's the music video, which was groundbreaking for its time.
Oh, yeah, that iconic video, one of the first to use visual storytelling to enhance the song's narrative. Those close-ups on Freddie's face, the theatrical, staging the special effects, it was like a mini-movie.
And it became a staple on MTV, which was just starting to take off at the time. The video's popularity helped catapult the song to even greater heights, and it influenced countless other music videos that followed.
It's amazing how the song and the video work together to create this massive cultural moment. And then, of course, there's the legacy of Freddie Mercury himself.
Freddie was a one-of-a-kind showman, a vocal powerhouse, and a true original. He defied conventions and embraced his flamboyant personality both on and off stage.
He was a rock star in every sense of the word. And his tragic death from AIDS in 1991 only added to the mystique and the legend of Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's true. The song took on a whole new level of meaning after Freddie's passing. It became an anthem of hope and resilience in the face of adversity, a reminder to live life to the fullest and to be true to yourself.
And it continues to connect with new generations of listeners. How many karaoke nights have ended with a rousing rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody?
Countless, I'm sure. It's a song that brings people together, transcends language and cultural barriers.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to sing along, let loose, embrace the chaos and the beauty of life.
So what does it all mean? Why, after all these years, is Bohemian Rhapsody still considered one of the greatest songs ever written?
I think it's because it taps into something deep within us. It speaks to our fears, our desires, our search for meaning in a world that can often feel chaotic and confusing. It's a song that makes us feel, think, and question. And that's the power of truly great art, isn't it?
It stays with us long after the music has stopped. It makes us want to sing along, analyze the lyrics, debate its meaning. It inspires us, challenges us, and ultimately reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles and our triumphs.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bohemian Rhapsody. As you go about your day, we leave you with this thought. If you were to create your own WN Bohemian Rhapsody reflecting a moment of crisis or change in your life, what imagery or figures would you use? What story would your masterpiece tell?